We're live. Hello, everybody there in Facebook land. Happy Friday to you. This is Kat. If we haven't met, I'm the president and CEO and visionary of Ta-Da by Kat, Next Level Staging and Design. And my esteemed guest, Jennie Norris, is also the president of Sensational Home Staging in Colorado. She is also my dear friend, mentor, and trainer for my master accreditation with stagehomes.com. She is also the chairwoman for IAHSP. It's a long name, International Association of Home Staging Professionals, the largest organization for staging professionals. So we have a consummate professional with us today, and I'm super excited. We are going to talk about the most strategic marketing tool that has actually recorded returns that you can do to sell your home and maximize the dollars on your home. You don't want to leave money on the table, and that's what we're talking about today, right, Jennie? And I see Jennie's shaking her head. I have to look at the camera. If I look at you, I'm not looking at the camera. So Jennie, welcome. Thank you so much for getting up earlier. I know you're on Colorado time. Not quite as early as Kevin.
You know, I love you when I get up early.
I know, I love you too. Heart. So Jennie, welcome. And I know you're getting over not feeling too well. So I'm glad you're on the mend and feeling better. And I see we're twinning today with our crystal Dolce Gabbana glasses here. And we've got the blues. And we didn't even send the memo out, right?
I know.
Like on this vibe. Yeah. So Jennie, if I missed something in your intro that you'd like to, if not, we can dive right into the topic. Is that good with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, super. So let's start out with, I know you are amongst many things, a marketing guru. Tell us why folks may not know that what the most strategic and highest return on value marketing tool is for selling your property.
I think, we know the answer to that, of course, is home staging, right? And the statistics we've tracked since early 2000s show that staging helps houses sell for more. They sell faster in a slower market. There's all the data that's out there. And I think the reason that people aren't aware of it is they're not either not being told by their advisors, real estate agents, what have you, because if the market's hot, there's a concept of, well, we don't have to do anything because the house is going to sell. And in the market, it will most likely sell, but it could sell for more. And especially when people are buying in the same market or even going to another state, there's only 2 states in the entire United States where it's even anywhere sort of affordable to purchase, where it hasn't gone skyrocketed. That's Hawaii and New York. Yeah. And New York because everybody's leaving, and Hawaii because it would shut down. And so there's still some deals to be had there, but otherwise every state is experiencing a shortage of inventory, prices that are going up. And so when you're buying in that same market as a seller, they want to net every single penny out of the sale. So don't leave money on the table.
That is excellent, because, there's 2 messages there. Okay. And as realtors, and, we love our realtor partners. Many of them, though, are new and they don't know what they don't know. And so maybe they listen to seasoned realtors who've never staged, or they're going, oh, it's a hot market, just put it, and it's going to sell. Well, it will sell, but can you get more? Like you mentioned, Jennie, you need to right now maximize the dollars. This is the hot market. So before you just go, put it up and take, you're going to get over list probably, and there'll be multiple offers and you're going to pick the best. But how much more could you have gotten? Because, we know, dear Barb has said, I quoted it many times, staging creates emotion. Yeah. My tagline to that is, at Ta-Da Staging, we create that emotion, and buyers justify price with emotion. So, even in today's hot market, maybe they only have 2 to choose from in that school district, that has the specifics they want, et cetera. But are you going to be the unstaged home, which is why they, purchase the staged home, and they offer even more? So let's talk about statistics, Jennie. And I know that the statistics historically have been nationwide. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it's, 1 to 17%.
Yeah, I mean, our stats show up to 20% more. NAR just came out with their profile of home staging for 2021. The little synopsis, people can look it up online. I'm amazed most realtors aren't even aware that this publication is out. It's the third time they've come out with it, so it's the sixth. In 6 years, they've issued it 3 times. Every odd year, it usually comes out in March. So
yes,
2021.
so that's worth repeating, because I know,
Yes.
I teach CE classes, and I've had many realtors say, no, I had no idea. Your national board, National Association of Realtors, NAR, publishes this statistical report every 2 years?
Every 2 years.
Jenny?
Yeah, profile of home staging. And so this year it says 47% of the buyers cited that a home staging had an effect on how they view the home. 82% said it made it easier for them to visualize the property as a future home. And then they kind of listed the top rooms that should be done: living room, master bedroom, etc. And so statistically, buyers are willing to pay more for property that's staged. And this has been going on for years. We know this data is out there. And so I'm going to throw this out there too, as sort of a challenge. And just people who are watching know, I love realtors. I'm married to a realtor. My son is a realtor, so it's part of our family.
Yes.
Realtors have what they call, is hopefully from NAR, a fiduciary responsibility to get the most in the sale of the home for their clients. That's a realtor code of ethics. That's part of what NAR mandates when people become a realtor, fiduciary responsibility. What that means is they are supposed to do their best to make sure that the seller gets the most in the sale. And so staging is not a secret. It's out there. So realtors that are not talking about it with their clients and advising them that, you want to take a look at this, are not fulfilling that duty. And that might, somebody watching this, if that makes you a little like, wow, I can't believe she went there. I'm going to go there because it's our responsibility to net the very most in the sale. That's what staging does. And you don't want your industry as a realtor accused of not doing the very most to get the sale. And if you want to go back in time, a little back in time machine, 2020 and 2005 did a segment called Real Estate Boomer Bust. And in that segment, you can look up the archives. In that segment, there was a company called Freakonomics. I think they still exist. And this guy got on there with a lisp, which drove me nuts. But he basically said that realtors were only worth $500. This is 2005. That's 16 years ago. You're only worth $500. And on national television, prime time, 2020, accused realtors of listing their own homes and doing more for themselves than they would for their clients. And you can imagine the uproar that came the very next day after the segment aired. And we were on it for the Happy Home Staging segment. It was a really positive segment. That I couldn't believe they went there on that segment. And because we know that's not true, but that perception is out there. And so realtors cannot afford to have that perception today where they're just putting things in the market. They're barely taking pictures because they know it's going to sell. The market will eventually shift, and you don't want the reputation to precede you.
Yes, reputation. Realtors out there, don't be lazy. If you're home sellers, don't let your realtor be lazy, okay? Because, again, that's just it's your reputation, it's your brand. And, Jenny, I like that you talk about the fiduciary responsibility. And, here's how this can play out, okay? Yes, it's a hot market right now. So, I won't give you the typical story I gave that, it's sitting on the market, you've done 2 price reductions, and then someone talks to you at work or at the gym about staging. Oh, we sold ours really quick. And we staged it. Like, what's staging? No one mentioned that to me. So that's not going to happen. But what will happen is you've got like for like, okay, homes. Okay. And yes, it sells fast. And, neighbors look, they see, because they're looking at the market. Maybe they want to leverage the market. And they look at 2 different homes, and maybe their neighbor's home that they just sucked the sign up, put it in MLS, prayed someone else sold it, and then a staged one got X number, 20, 30, 40, 50.
I'm sure more. I'm sorry, and I apologize to the audience. My dog just woke up. He's really old. He turned 16 on the 16th, and he's standing by the front door. And if I don't let him out, he might. No one's here. No one else is here but me. So I'm going to jump up really fast.
Yeah.
Right back. That's a great point. All right, here, Copper.
Yes. So you don't want that comparison, because again, unless you're just in it for a quick, let me make money, get my real estate license and make money, stick the sign up, sell. But if you want to have a career, if you want to have a reputation, and you want to be branded, you need to do more. As Jenny said, in this study, realtors were doing way more for their own place. Well, you need to treat every client as if it was your own place. your mom, your uncle, or whatever, and do the very best so that they can maximize this awesome time. Because, you know, if not, you're just throwing their precious equity at this prime time in the toilet.
Right.
You know,
and I had a realtor that we just did a staging for, and her team was actually saying, why are you staging this? It was a mixed media. We're bringing things in. We'll talk about what that is coming up. Bringing things in, and her team was like, why are you doing that? You know, just put it in the market. And I thought she was talking about, you know, not her team, but like the other people saying, you know, why are you bothering? And she goes, no, it's my team. And she goes, but it's my standard. I'm not changing anything just because the market's hot.
My standard.
That's a smart realtor.
That is a very smart realtor. We just staged, you know, a little bungalow, and, you know, we're not talking less than 200,000. So I'm going to do some real quick math here. I don't know the average. Let's just take what's kind of a modicum average, you know, of the 1 to 7. Would you say 10% more being staged?
No, let's go half. Just say 8.5 to 10%. Let's just say 10% for easy math.
Let's say 10%. Yeah. Okay. So let's say at 200,000. Okay. And in our market, you know, that's a pretty entry level. Even before this whole COVID conundrum thing, you'd have people lined up, you know, because not as many people could qualify, you know, for hire. So it's your entry level home. So, okay, at 8%, you're looking at, is that right? Did I do the math
16.
right? 16?
Well, 10% would be 20,000. So 8% would be
8%.
16,000.
$16,000, people. Even if you had which we did, a full vacant, we did all the rooms, you know, $3,500. Do the math. Minus $3,500 is $12,500 that you would have torn up and thrown in the trash, or that you need to maximize right now, all the more that this is a really hot market, because again, people are going to fall in love, you know, and have a transfer of emotion when it's staged, and they will be willing to pay a premium. So,
and then also don't forget, when the house is vacant, it's not just the staging investment. I would say the staging is an upfront investment to help you maximize the rate of return on the sale of your house. Because when people don't invest in staging, you don't save that money. You don't keep it. You lose it with either a lower offer or not getting more than list, or getting the very best price. But don't forget, there's also the carrying cost. If you've moved out and your house is vacant, you have this asset that's sitting there, and so now you're making probably two house payments until this one gets sold and someone else assumes that role. So that's also costing it, plus the utilities.
Yes, carrying costs. Yeah.
The staging helps you save by not having to sit on the market as long, and you know, make sure that you're going to get that, as you're saying, the emotion of the buyer locked in, because that emotional connection needs to carry them through all the way through to the close. Because Absolutely. Buyers like to come back and take a look. If there's other options, they might start getting some cold feet. But when they're locked in emotion, like, oh my God, I love that house, that's the one we have to have, then they're going to do what it takes to see it through.
And you know, we had an experience actually last year where we had the truck loaded, and it was actually realtor homeowner said, oh, I think we've got a potential buyer, you know, we don't need it. I'm like, ooh, sorry. Yeah. We've already done 90% of the work and our truck is loaded up. So I can, you know, give you a little bit, not much. So obviously he opted to have it staged. They didn't pull the trigger till they saw it staged. They saw it staged, and that was it. That's what put them over the edge. So it really is a powerful marketing tool to get buyers to fall in love, which is what you're trying to do.
Right.
So even on and that we were looking at a modicum at 8%. You know, some parts of the country can be upwards of 17-20%.
Well, yeah, you think like Southern California. Kevin just had one of our colleagues, Kevin Tain, who does Flip or Flop, and he's like a brother to both of us. Yes, a little brother. Kevin. So he just had one. I think it went for like 300,000 over. I mean, we're talking significant impact on properties, and that's not unheard of in a lot of markets. And so we're looking at a property that, you know, the virtual staging that's out there. We'll just put some digital images in there. That doesn't work because it doesn't grab people emotionally. And so we're looking at
Right.
staging
And
a
we talked
condo.
about that. It'll get them in the door. If you're looking to cheap out, and sorry about, I know photographers are trying to reinvent themselves and do that, but it maybe for a patio, things like that, if you don't want to invest in a big, outdoor, but really people feel duped when they see the pictures on the line. It'll get them in, but they're like, what?
And I haven't seen any data that shows that those properties are going for way more. I haven't seen that data. I don't know that anybody's even tracking it. I know that we can track the restaging of these properties so that it does create that emotional connection. And in a market like right now, you're a seller, you want to net the very most, because wherever you're going to purchase, you may need extra cash to be able to bridge the appraisal gap. That's what a lot of buyers are finding. They might qualify for a certain value of a property, but if you don't have cash, because you can't wrap the appraisal gap piece into a loan, you don't have extra cash sitting there, you cannot purchase.
Oh, Jenny, that is an excellent point, honey. That's an excellent point. So, in the market, wonder, well, how market build? Well, real estate's paving the way right now, and appraisers know that the supply and demand, et cetera. However, you could run across that issue where if they're not willing to lower the price because they know they've got 4 people lined up, you may have to come to a negotiation with your realtor to gap that difference. And so that's an excellent point, Jenny, to help you leverage that and gain more cash in selling your home, to have it staged, basically.
Yeah, because even like the 8%, let's go back to that example, $16,000. That's a lot of money to the homeowner that's sold. To a realtor, 2 to 3% of that, you're talking around $3,200 at 3%. Is that right? So see, 16,000 times 2, 32, maybe 48, whatever it is. I'm not doing the math right on that. 16,000 times 3%. We're talking like $500 extra as far as commission. If I do 0.3, it's $480. So that's not a lot of money, but a lot of little bits add up for realtors. If every property got an extra amount, that commission starts to add up. But that's $16,000 to the seller.
Yes.
And so as a realtor, and I know that my husband and son, they take a look at this all the time and wanting to get the very most. It's more commission to the realtors. Well, don't you want to make a little bit more money? It adds up. But more than that, it really speaks to the seller, making sure that they net the very most. And sellers want every penny out of the seller of their house. They don't want to leave money on the table.
No, that's their precious equity. You need to squeeze every drop out of their equity. And now is the time to do it and to leverage it through every tool, marketing of which through staging is one of the most powerful. Jenny, let's segue into this second 10 minutes or so that we have. And let's talk a little bit about how sellers can market their property if they're living in it. We know, because not everybody has used a stager before or really knows what are the different flavors and or packages. And I was telling you before the show that we've really started doing a lot of mixed media, especially being purchasing our transit. And so we're able to offer, not just full on vacant. Explain to folks who may not know what is mixed media for someone who's living in their home, which, it can be a daunting experience. It can be like living in a fishbowl. But if you do what your professional, your realtor and your stager tells you to do, you'll be living in a fishbowl for a lot less time. And you'll get a lot more money if you zhuzh it up with some mixed media. Tell folks what is a mixed media. How does it start out? What are the components and levels of it?
So mixed media in our world is basically we're mixing a little bit of yours, a little bit of ours. So it's a mixed media staging. So in that situation, typically a professional stager is going to come do what we call a consultation. And that's where they're going to come walk through the property, advise seller on what needs to be done room by room, as far as specifics, pack this up, move that, remove this, add this, change that. So they're going to be very specific about what should happen in the property in an ideal world. And then based on the time frame and the budget of the homeowner, they're going to implement all of it, some of it. They may need help to implement recommendations. And when a professional stager is going through the house, we're looking at if somebody has a big wall full of family photos, and we know those have to come down because we're depersonalizing, we need artwork there. So then I'm going to be looking to see what other artwork might be suitable. If they don't have anything, then I'm going to suggest this is what we call a phase 2 mixed media. We come in and we bring the artwork, the decor, the color infusion elements that help bring that house alive visually. Because it's some people think, well, if I just strip everything out and I got my furniture, isn't that good enough? And I liken that to, it's like a cake with no frosting. I mean, there's
It's
nothing.
sterile. It can be
Yeah,
sterile and cold.
right.
We do a lot of investors like you do, and some of our investors have invested, excuse me, in furniture that they keep in a little warehouse. But I reached out to one of my investor partners, and I'm like, ooh, that's great that you've done that, but tell you, we can zhuzh it up a notch by really bringing in, as you call the icing to the cake, or I call it the jewelry of the home, because it really has no, that's when it comes alive. As you talked about, Jenny, color integrating. As professionals, we're going to look at what the fixed elements are. If you're rehabbing a place, yeah, you've done it all neutral. But many times we walk into a home that, has some turquoise glass tile or some silk, whatever drapes that we need to work around, and we can color integrate, triangulate the color, bring it throughout the space, make it look cohesive and on purpose. But we need to, be cognizant of those fixed elements to make it all work. And sometimes it just takes, we see this, Jenny and I see this all day long. So, we make decisions, we know what's in the warehouse, and we can bring it all together for a model home look for, either just using your items or bringing in strategic, as Jenny says, art, work, some lighting. Lighting is always critical. I find that most people live in just too dark of spaces, and buyers want light and bright. If you're selling your home and you're out looking, you know that. Look at the model homes, look at what you're attracted to, and you feel better. Your vibration is raised when you see color, when you see space, when your eye moves around the place, and when it's illuminated. And that's what a professional stager can do. And, I want to make one point for realtors, if you're a realtor listening out there, and I know you've run across this, Jenny, where realtors are like, they really want us to be the bad guy. Some of them, some realtors have a good eye, but sometimes it's worth spending $200-300 for a consultation and have us be the bad guy. I've had one of my realtor partners go, Kat, I told her to remove that, and she rolled her eyes at me. And when you told her, she wrote it down and did it. And it's just,
It's because you're not tied. You're not tied to the sale. A stager's not tied to it. So we're truly objective versus a client might think when a realtor is sharing, well, you're just trying to get me to spend money, and like it's self-serving. And it's not. The realtor has the best intention. They want the seller to do things they know. And some of it's obvious. Like, I remember one same scenario, lime green bathroom. And I'm like, this needs to be painted. And they're like whipping out the paintbrush. And the realtor's like, I told them 3 weeks ago they wouldn't listen to me. And I'm like, I know, I don't, it's just, sometimes they need to hear it a second time. But we'll back up the realtor as far as, things that we know need to happen. But take them out of the hot seat. And even, some sellers might think, well, my stuff's not nice enough. And, do I need to, are they going to come tell me to take all my furniture out? And, listen, strategic throws and pillows can disguise some wear and tear on furniture. Artwork, again, adds a huge element. The look behind Pat, look behind me, the artwork that's to scale on the wall, you pull the colors out of that. As if it's on trend, it makes the whole house feel more updated just by bringing updated elements in. And you could have other dated items in there, but the overall feeling that it elicits to the buyer in pictures and in person is different.
Absolutely. And I want to kind of underline that point that you made, Jenny. We're doing one, I think it's going to be at 1.5 million, that's got some pretty heavy stuff in it. A couch. We just remove the big pillows, put on trend pillows, bring in 2 matching chairs, bring in some art. I really get the most excitement and joy really out of Occupy being able to transform and up level without having to strip it down, using I think what they have.
Yeah, I think Occupy staging to me is much more challenging.
It is.
Because you are having to use what the homeowner has. The budget might be a little bit more limited, but you are, and that's where, the training comes in, because that was always the challenge, the class, going to a house, hitting a cold, not seeing it being restricted to like, what do they have in this house that I can use, and having to make magic. And
that really is what it is. Not to downplay putting together, a rehab that's neutral or a model home. In that case, you really just have to have a good investment on furnishings that's going to be luxury or, what have you, but you pick a palette and, you don't have to tweak your brain that much, placement,
Right.
of course, is critical, but with challenging floor plans for furniture placement and existing homes where you've got to go, okay, how can okay, I'm going to take that from upstairs, bring that down here. I'm going to put this over here, take these. That's really exciting to me because you get to tweak your creative muscles and really, as you say, make magic. It's nothing less.
And on top of that, the people are still living in the home most of the time. So that adds a whole other element versus vacant. We're in 100% control. There's nobody there. We get to pick how we want it to look, get it set up. But an occupied, you're not only dealing with what they have, they're living there. So it's sort of like, okay, they're living there, might be working there. They may have kids that are in schooling at home. So you have all these factors of, compromising, with the homeowner in some cases. What are you willing to live without while your house is on the market? What do you absolutely have to have? How can I make that look attractive to potential buyers? And it could even be, I've done this recently, a couple of the desks with all the cords dangling down. Reposition the desk so I don't just see that when I see it from the doorway. So they can still work in the space, but make it look aesthetically more pleasing. But it can be challenging, and it's very stressful to a homeowner to be living in the house while the house is being shown.
Yes.
And, so the goal is to get it through that process as quickly as possible.
Yep.
And that's where the staging comes in.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I can't stress enough. Yeah. And I don't know about you, Jenny, two of the things that I see in Occupied that is, well, I'm going to say three that I think are, I call them easy, but, we'll just call them easy fixes for professionals is lighting, illuminating the space properly. Proper furniture placement. How many times have we walked in? We love the open concept, but unfortunately, most people or many people really are challenged with how to position. So you'll see, I think there's a term for it, but it's like all the furniture up against the wall.
Yeah, it's like they're on a timeout. It's all labeled over here.
Timeout. There's nothing being connected, and that's an easy, fun fix, and I just love it when homeowners like, oh my God, I never would have thought of to do that,
Are you allowed to put furniture without having a wall? I'm like,
right. And so there's a you have to know some design elements, how to anchor the space so it doesn't feel like floating, and maybe a sofa table and having the proper scale of rugs and things like that. But it's so easily doable. So, proper placing of furniture, lighting, and then painting. Bang for your buck, people. Neutralize.
And I call it, if people are not able, or they don't have the time frame or the budget, or are not able to paint, I've always called it embrace versus replace. So let's say they have a wall that's red or yellow or something like that, and they're like, we're not painting. So then you want to be working with a professional, understands color.
Yep.
Kat is trained expert on color. I have enough to be dangerous. I'm working my way through the advanced course. But you want to know somebody who can work with the color. And so if they're not going to paint it, then I'm going to take that color and thread it through the house. But also, if it's a big dark wall, bring artwork that has light.
I love it, Jenny. I love it, Jenny. And that's why you're the consummate professional. I'm going to have to use your term embrace or replace. And that's what I was speaking about earlier, that, the professional is going to go in and go, okay, it's got some pink bathroom, and and so we're going to integrate it. We're going to pepper and triangulate the color throughout and make it look on purpose, not dated. And I love that. I'm going to start coining that. Embrace it or replace it. So if you can't replace it, that's fine. I had a lady, I'm sure I've told this story before if you're listening again, but I had a lady a couple of years ago who had, 40-foot ceilings, and it was all faux painted.
Forget it.
Painted. So, I still called it out on my report, even though I was told that she was not going to spend the 15, 20,000, whatever to paint it. I'm going to call it out, because if not, someone looks at it and goes, she didn't call that out. And what I tell folks is I'm going to call out everything in my professional opinion and experience and talent that is going to bring you, more eyeballs and higher offers. It's up to you to do as little as much as you want. So she decided not to do it. But I said, if you do 80%, you're still going to be that much closer to, to someone falling in love and wanting to make an offer. So, if you're out there, don't think you have to do everything. The more you do, it's whatever you're financially and physically and everything else, willing to do. But, I have to go back to, hire a professional, because that embrace or replace concept, when done correctly by professionals, can just make a world of difference. Just take that element, that fixed element that is inherent to the house or that you're not willing to change, and make it look on purpose. I really like that.
And I would say two things to that. One, the expectation then has to be in line with what is, when a professional comes in and recommends, let's say there's 25 things that they recommend that you do as a homeowner, and you choose 5 and say, I'm not doing the other 20, well, then that's going to impact the sale. And so the expectations have to be in line with the recommendations, what has been done and what hasn't been done. So the more you can do, the better. And there are companies out there that, their cash flow is the number one reason why people don't do the things they need to do, the painting, the easy things. Painting is not expensive. And it's not much invasive either, as far as getting somebody in to do some interior paint, even exterior, maybe updating flooring or what have you. But money is the number one reason why people don't do that. Well, there's companies that are funding. They're providing that, whether it's a real estate companies. A lot of them are offering up ways. They're partnering with investment companies to come in, the money people, give a cash infusion, help that seller get the property properly updated, because they know it's going to sell for more, and then they take their money back at the closing. And there's independent companies like Zoom Casa. We've partnered with them. They'll come in, windows, flooring, whatever. So that's not a reason a seller shouldn't invest in what they need to do to update their property. It can make the difference between getting an extra couple $100,000 more in some cases. I'm working with a homeowner right now. They're in their 70s. She wants to remodel the whole house before they come on the market. So I went through the whole plan with her about, and we're talking, she's looking at over a year from now coming on the market. But what she didn't consider is the livability factor and the disruption of the life when you're talking ripping out floors and walls, and she has water leaks and different things. And so I wrote to the realtor privately and I said, I think 2 things are going to happen. Either they're just going to move out and sell it as is versus living through that hassle because they're older, or which probably will cost them over $100,000 in profit, but not have to live through that, or they'll fix it, but they're going to have to exit the property. And that's a challenge for people. So depending on their situation, it doesn't have to be a total rehab, but if they can paint, they can update flooring, carpeting.
Painting and flooring is inexpensive. And what I encourage you to do, if you're a realtor, get a staging partner. If you're a homeowner, have someone in for a consult, because what I've run across, and I'm sure you have too, Jenny, is sometimes folks have unrealistic expectation of their return on their investment. And And they think that they have to have the best of the best because that's their taste. It's not about their taste. So a professional can kind of guide you and go, okay, I'm not talking about putting a lipstick on a pig, but making strategic investments to sell for top dollar without breaking the bank. You don't have to have $1,000, big ass fan company. You know what I'm saying? For your own home, that would be
range. You know what I mean? You can get a GE profile, make the budget go further. I just looked at a house yesterday that's probably going to be like over $2 million property here. And as we're trying to do the exterior painting, I've been to this property now 3 times with this realtor, and the homeowner's living in Florida. They want to build some big house down there. The wife, she's a neurosurgeon, and so she's not a designer, but she likes to have input. And so we're held up on the exterior color. We've done the color, schematic. With a realtor hired an artist to do the rendering and so forth. And she's still fighting on whether or not she should lighten the color of the body of the house and get rid of this dated stone look. And we're like, yes, that's what you need to do. And I don't like that color. And I said, well, you're not buying your house back. You're selling it. So they need to then trust the professionals they bring in. And as Kat said, it may not be your taste, the things that are recommended, the colors, the pictures and so forth, but it's not being done for you. It's being done for the next person that's coming in. And one of the things that we are experts in is advising sellers what today's buyers want to see in properties for sale, whether it's pictures, painting, colors, all those things. So trust, rely on your trusted advisors, because our goal is the same as the homeowners and the realtor and the investor. Get the best price possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's, I start out all my consultations with letting them know, I'm going to be calling some things out, and please don't take offense to anything, because how we live in our home is not how we market it to sell it. And you do want to get as much money as possible and sell it as quickly as possible, don't you? Get their head shaking. Yes, I do. Great. And then dive right in. This has to go. But never insult them.
Right.
Insult them, ever. Jennie, we are a little past the hour here. You've shared so much information. I'm glad you talk about as fast as I do, or we talk. You can replay this.
Exactly.
This will be recorded and put up on YouTube. This is our 40th episode, Jennie.
That's awesome.
Yeah, time flies. So, Jennie, where could someone in the Denver, Colorado reach you for, what's the best way to reach you if someone would like to reach out to you for services?
Our company, Sensational Home Staging. So our website is sensationalhome.com, sensationalhome.com, or you can call me at 888-WE-STAGE.
I like that.
Would love to talk with anybody there. And then if you're watching this and you're a stager, or you're somebody that's interested in the industry, or a realtor that wants to learn more about staging, go to stagehomes.com. And there are courses you can take that are, you get an accreditation. They're very professional, but they'll give you so much knowledge to arm you with the ability to get listings over your competition, and as a stager to start a lucrative staging business.
Absolutely. ASP courses are taught virtually and in person. Are they in person also now?
Not yet. We're still waiting.
Yeah.
So they're all virtually live or recorded webinar, and then every graduate is a member of IAHSP, which is that long string, the International Association of Staging Professionals. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennie. And
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining me, and everyone out there. Remember to stay positive, always stay hopeful, and stay connected. Thank you so much for connecting with me and Jennie today, and connect with your mom. If your mom's in heaven, connect with her spiritually and in your heart. And if you can't physically be with your mom or your kids, which is the case with us this week, do a Zoom call, send some flowers, just send out beautiful thoughts. And that goes for moms of puppies and all fur babies and step kids and real kids, adult kids, baby kids. My heart goes out to all the mamas out there for this Mother's Day weekend. Thank you so much, Jennie.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks for having me on. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Yes, thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.